All right, welcome back to the SSL Family Dad channel. Today I wanted to give you guys a quick update on the raised bed garden and answer a few questions. I've gotten so many great recommendations and comments and questions and ideas and all these things. So I wanted to just kind of go through a bunch of this stuff and kind of answer some questions and give you guys a few of my thoughts and what the purpose of this whole thing is. This week we're going to be making some final improvements to this and planting this garden so we can start growing some things and so I want to kind of give you an update on how well the heating's been working and things like that. So if you have not been following along, you'll want to watch a few of the previous videos on the raised bed garden, building it, filling it, and several things I've tried to do to heat the raised bed with an outdoor wood boiler and some PEX tubing and radiant heaters and other things like that. And so what I've come down to is this. This is kind of my final thought on this. So basically what it's come down to is the heating systems that we've tried in here have just not been quite adequate. The thin plastic covering on this size greenhouse is and all the leaks and nothing insulated. There's a lot of holes and things like that on the ends, and I've got fans in here that aren't sealed up to the outside very well, and a lot of things. There's just no way, really, with any amount of heat, I don't think, that we're going to keep this entire space heated. A lot of people have made a lot of great recommendations. I'm going to go through some of those and talk to you guys about some of the things and reasons why I chose to do and try these things. But what it's come down to is I want to start growing in this raised bed, and I want to start some seedlings here very soon. So I'm going to go back to kind of plan A. This has always been my backup plan if these other heating systems didn't work, and that's going to be just to build a small I guess a low tunnel inside of the high tunnel. This is going to be like a little hoop greenhouse here. I'm going to get some more conduit and some plastic, and we'll make it so the sides roll up or this thing opens or closes somehow. And then we're going to use our radiant heater in this end of it, and we're going to heat this space, a much smaller space and a much more sealed space in a much more controlled environment, so I can use both the radiant heat from the raised bed and the forced air heater that I built to heat this entire space. That'll allow me to get growing in here right now until I can find a better way to deal with the heating the entire greenhouse. And I'll talk to you about that in a minute. A lot of great comments, a lot of great ideas. Some stuff, pretty far out there, and some stuff very logical and very understandable. I always love to hear feedback. And sometimes it's hard, I think, for you guys to make good recommendations, not having all the information and maybe not being here to understand some of the things here. But heating the raised bed with the tubing here, I still think that it is doing some good. It's now that I've wet this down and kind of soaked this and allowed the water to soak up some of that heat energy. I think once we get a cover on this, that'll actually make a little bit more of an impact, and it's definitely going to help with my germination rates. But like a lot of people have said, it's going to take a long time to heat up this much mass with that wood boiler. Having the forced air heater in here, I ran it for a few days, and like I said, I had it on that thermal cube, so during the nighttime it would come on, and it would run pretty much constantly all night long. It barely made a dent in this greenhouse. It would keep the temperatures for, I would say about the first 10 hours of dark, about 10, maybe even 15 degrees above the outside temperature. But there isn't enough wood that I could throw in that thing to make it run overnight. It would run out of wood, halfway through the night, and then the temperature of the water would get cold by morning, and it would be cold in here again. We had a few nights that were like 10 degrees at night, and it kept it at about 18 to 20, maybe 22 in here, but not going to keep it above freezing. The heat is just escaping out of here just too quickly. There's just no way to keep it in with no insulation. Many people have recommended using a double plastic wall. Definitely something that I thought of from the very beginning, but obviously there's some cost and some labor and some design changes involved with that. That this greenhouse plastic isn't super cheap, so that might be something I'd try to do maybe next year to insulate this a little bit better, but not something I'm going to do this year. Some people recommended adding more heaters. The fan's not adequate, adding a bigger fan, all that stuff. Definitely good ideas. However, again, there's just not enough heat in that boiler, not enough wood I can put in it to get it to run overnight. No matter how many of these things I had in here, all I'm doing is just sucking the energy out of that wood burner quicker if I have more heaters or a bigger fan, and it's still just escaping out of here just too quickly. I mean, that thing was putting out 150-degree air. It was pumping out some great heat, and that wasn't the issue. It was getting the heat in here. It just was escaping too quickly. So just not enough heat energy to heat this place. A lot of people talked about the PEX tubing in this raised bed, that I'm losing a lot of heat down into the ground. That definitely is probably true. I mean, there's probably some heat loss that going down, but I will say, just from experience, our PEX lines from the wood burner, when it was installed at the house, they ran all underground. They were underground about 18 inches, even deeper than this right here. And the snow was always melted on all the way back and forth to the house. They were uninsulated PEX all the way down to the house. And so I know that heat will heat the ground, and it rises. You know, more of that heat is going to rise upwards than it's going to push downwards. I do understand that we're losing some heat down, but it still should be producing plenty of heat to heat the soil up eventually. The problem really is just, I mean, we could calculate out the amount of energy that it would take to heat this much soil, and the amount of energy that we're putting into it, and the heat transfer that we have, and all that kind of stuff. Some people recommended more PEX in here. That probably would have been more of the answer. I can tell you I'm not getting a lot of heat energy into the bed, because the wood burner will run all day long, even for more than a day, and it barely ever kicks on. And what that's telling me is that it's not dropping the water temperature very much. I'm not getting a lot of heat energy put into this bed. So it's just not transferring enough into the bed. Again, not enough PEX loops. So no matter how I look at it, it's going to take a combination of the forced air blower that we made and the tubing in the ground here in order to nicely heat this amount of soil and this amount of space where we can grow some decent vegetables. A lot of people have pointed to other videos of other people out there that have done, you know, different things with double hoops in here and things like that. I don't want to say I've watched every video out there, but normally before I get into projects like this, I do quite a bit of research, and I've definitely seen most all of the major players out there, I guess you could say, for you know, in different greenhouse designs and keeping them going through the winter and all that kind of stuff. The environment here is very cold, and my goal was never just to grow some lettuce in here. I can grow lettuce in here and kale in here with barely anything. There's grass growing in here right now, and it's been, you know, super cold in here. I know I can grow leafy greens in here with no problem. I want to have my citrus tree in here. I want to grow avocados. I want to grow tomatoes. I want to grow peppers. I want to grow things that I can't get in the wintertime that are grown locally here in Michigan. I want to get the stuff that has to be shipped from Mexico and South America and all these other hot places. You know, that by the time you get it in the wintertime, by the time I get those vegetables, you know, they're no longer, there's no longer any nutrient value left in them. I want to be able to grow fresh vegetables that I can't get locally in the wintertime here. And for that, I'm going to need a lot more heat than I can produce with just a hoop. That will keep the temperatures, you know, in here maybe 10 degrees warmer than outside, or maybe even 20 with a double layer here. But that still isn't going to help me when it's -10 in the wintertime. I've got to have some kind of heat source in here. So just doubling the layers isn't going to solve the problem that I was going after from the beginning. That was to heat this raised bed, or even heat this whole entire space, so that I could have, you know, grow things year round. One of the most recommended things, and some people had some pretty snide comments about this stuff, was, this is a waste of time. Why don't you get geothermal? Why don't you use geothermal? You've got this 55-degree heat in the ground all the time, and you can just do this and do that and check this out and check that out. That is absolutely great. And geothermal actually is something that I've thought about doing from the very beginning. And that probably will be the way I'll go eventually, doing some geothermal loops. But again, if I can't heat this amount of space with 150-degree air coming out of this heater, I'm not going to heat this space with 55-degree coming out of this heater. I have to solve the insulation problem and the holding the heat in here first. Even if I line this whole thing with barrels of water, IBC totes, 55-gallon drums, as much water as I could put in here and heated it all up, there's still no way to hold that heat in here without insulating this place. Those videos that you see out there with guys with greenhouses that they're running through the winter with the geothermal and all that stuff, I've seen those videos too. That's great, but they're not using a single plastic layer, you know, basically a high tunnel, which is what I have here. They're using glass, or they're using insulated greenhouses. totally different story, totally different thing. We will get into geothermal down the road, but that's not something that I'm going to be doing right now. I've got some surprises for you guys, hopefully, that I'll be getting next weekend, that I can show you how we're going to tackle some of those kinds of projects around here. So you have to stay tuned for that. So I also want to say this, and just to kind of explain a little bit about my thought process with these kinds of things, because some of you guys are following along, and I think you're like, oh, that didn't work, I feel so bad, and this and that. Don't feel bad. These kinds of things, I plan for these experiments to be successful or fail, and it doesn't matter to me, because I'm not doing this. You know, if this doesn't work, it's okay. You know, if I can't grow some peppers in here this month, the world's not going to end for me. I'm attacking this a little bit differently. I'm not just looking out there at what everyone else is doing and then copying that here. I want to try things in a systematic way and kind of rule out what will work and what won't work. And I want to try it, and I want to experiment with it, and I want to see what maybe I can come up with that other people haven't come up with. And that's the whole point with trying these different things. It's not that I expect the first thing to work, or even the second thing sometimes. I put these things together. I mean, this whole greenhouse was an experiment, building this greenhouse with PVC, you know, tubing and conduit and things like that, you know, for under $500. This was an experiment. I hadn't seen other people do it this way, and I tried it. The maple syrup evaporator. I took some ideas that I saw around online, and we changed things up, and we tried some different things, and that thing worked great. So a lot of things that you're going to see here on the SSL Family Dad channel, some of these things are going to be different, and some of these things aren't going to work, and that's all right, because we systematically learn what works and what doesn't work, and then for you guys can copy those things or change them to meet your own needs, and that's the whole idea of what we're doing here. And hopefully I haven't come across as you know, this is how to do it. That's not the idea here. Once I have things in place, and we see that, you know, in January, February, even March in Michigan, I can grow tomatoes and peppers and little orange trees and avocados and things like that. Like, that's the stuff I want to be able to do in here. Anybody can plant some lettuce in a low tunnel and plant some kale and plant some spinach, stuff like that. That stuff will grow when it's cold. I've had kale that pops through the snow sometime, you know, in February, and it's growing. So you know, I don't even need a greenhouse for that stuff. I think anybody can do that with pretty easily. I can grow that stuff in my basement, really, lettuce. So I want this to be a little different, and that's the whole idea here. So hopefully that helps to kind of shed some light on the thought process around this particular project, as well as many others that we do around here. Attacking things from different angles and trying new things doesn't always lead to immediate success, but we'll get there one way or another. We're going to make this thing work. Of course, you'll have to follow along to find out what happens and how things turn out. That's the whole point here. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed the videos that we've been doing. I've been doing a lot of videos in the greenhouse and raised bed and all this stuff. I will be planting this thing soon. No matter what, we're going to see how it grows and see what works and what doesn't. We're going to make some adjustments and put some plastic up here, build a little mini tunnel here coming up here shortly. We've got some maple syrup stuff coming up soon. We're going to be redoing our evaporator and changing things up on that. And as soon as the weather will cooperate for me, I'm going to start working on the sugar shack. Even though I probably won't be able to use it this year, we're going to be building that with pallets and all kinds of good stuff. I've started to collect some things for that, and I'll take you guys along for all those things. So I know I haven't been moving as quickly on some of these projects as some of you guys would probably like, so I apologize for that. Just hang in there. We'll get this stuff done. Weather and other things, life has just not been cooperating with me the last couple weeks. So stick around for all that good stuff, guys. Continue to throw the questions and comments and all that good encouragement and things like that down below. Don't forget to hit thumbs up on all the videos, and of course subscribe if you want to follow along, and don't forget to hit that bell. Make sure you get notified when we post new videos. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.